which for me is Bitcoin up to 200,000 this year and $500,000 before Trump leaves office.
What about the story last week about the hack? There is this story emerged that a hacker stole $1.5 billion worth of digital tokens in what researchers are calling the biggest crypto heist of all time. What impact has that had on the crypto market?
So it's come at a very bad time. So we already had the Solana meme coin story around Libera a couple of weeks ago, obviously risk assets coming lower, and then you had the Bybit hack too. So within the crypto ecosystem, what we need are traditional financial players like Standard Chartered, like BlackRock and others that have the ETFs now to really step in size. And it's institutions like ours that now offer custody businesses that are much more secure than some of the hacks that you mentioned just now. So as the industry becomes more institutionalized, it should be safer. We should get a lot less of these negative headlines. Hopefully we'll get some regulatory clarity in the US too, and that can see, again, a lot more traditional players entering the market. Probably that will see volatility come lower, and again, that should add to that medium-term top side potential, which for me is Bitcoin up to 200,000 this year and $500,000 before Trump leaves office.
European Union's it was formed in order to screw the United States. I mean, look, let's be honest. The European Union was formed in order to screw the United States. That's the purpose of it. And they've done a good job of it, but now I'm president. Also with the 5 million, that's a path to citizenship. So that's going to be, it's sort of a green card plus, and it's a path to citizenship. We're going to call it the gold card. And I think it's going to be very treasured. I think it's going to do very well. And we're going to start selling, hopefully, in about 2 weeks. Now, just so you understand, if we sell 1 million, right, 1 million, that's $5 trillion. 5 trillion. Howard was using a different number, but that's $5 trillion. If we sell 10 million, which is possible, 10 million highly productive people coming in, or people that we're going to make productive, they'll be young, but they're talented, like a talented athlete. That's $50 trillion. That means our debt is totally paid off, and we have $15 trillion above that. And now I don't know that we're going to sell that many. Maybe we won't sell many at all, but I think we're going to sell a lot because I think there really is a thirst. No other country can do this because people don't want to go to other countries. They want to come here. Everybody wants to come here, especially since November 5th.
Yeah, that's a big concern, right? There's the fund. As you said, it's really a trailblazing fund because prior to this, you could only have up to 15% in illiquid securities. With this, you can go up to 35 and even more. There's some fine print in there. So this is going further than any ETF has gone, and they solved that by using Apollo, and the SEC was okay with that. But yeah, if there's an illiquidity issue, right, I will say I think this ETF should be considered a hybrid. It's like mostly ETF, but maybe a little closed-end fund. But here's the thing. We've seen this happen before. EM had a problem with the Russia stocks that it owned. They got illiquid. The EM ETFs traded on. Their arbitrage band stretches a little bit, but they still trade. And my opinion is ETF investors have been accustomed now for years to occasionally having stuff that goes illiquid inside the portfolio. The ETF trades on, and they understand that the percent premium discount will stretch a little bit. Right. So I think the market's going to be comfortable with this. The question is, will they want it? Private credit versus private equity. How much will it return? I think those things matter too.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And also, guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we have Bitcoin and crypto taking a beating. But those of us who've been in this space for a long time, we're used to it. We know it's time now for the NWO to start building. We are at the last stretch to the fourth industrial revolution. Remember, Trump only has 4 years to get us there. But along the way, we're going to have pumps and dumps. And don't forget, guys, we have futures tomorrow. And I see us flat or moving slightly up just because we already took a big hit this week. And we know they like to price things in. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. Now, once we get stablecoin regulation, trillions are going to get minted, and that's going to bring a lot of liquidity to the crypto market. And then on top of it, we're going to see stocks get tokenized, and I'm going to go over that later. But yes, we're going to get a correction, but not a crash, not just yet. And we get a lot of predictions when it comes to Bitcoin. 500,000, 200,000, 5 million, 1 million. But guys, the only thing you have to do is follow the Fed. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And anytime we pull back, there's always going to be a distraction because the Fed and the central banks are not going to tell you, I took your money. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And we have Trump tariffs on Mexico, Canada, China, now the EU. And we know this is setting up for a currency war, trade war, and then also because people are going to be out of work due to the machines, you don't have to worry about paying taxes. And remember, when you hear Trump saying this, these politicians telling you no taxes, they're talking to the corporation. They're not talking to you. These stable coins are so important because they're going to allow them to be able to send out free money, universal basic income, but this money is going to be programmable, telling you what, where, and when and how to buy, and you have 3 to 6 months to spend it or poof, it's gone. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And we have Trump being the #1 salesman, selling gold cards for $5 million to get inside the United States. Guys, this is unbelievable. You can't make this stuff up. And we know since he was president the first time, that's all he's been doing is selling. And people just don't recognize it. Remember, Trump works for the banks. And the banks are the biggest what? I'll let you finish that. Now, guys, we have Apollo and State Street new ETF on private credit, opening up the casino. Now Gary Gensler is out. The casino is open. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And like Larry Fink stated, all these ETFs are going to be the gateway to tokenization. Everything's going to be tokenized and put on blockchain. And this one, guys, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. This has to be a movie. We have the ADL now with an ETF. Yes, guys, you heard that correct. And I'm not going to say what I want to say. I'll say that for a Patreon video. But this is definitely unbelievable, but definitely not surprising. They know that we're moving over to a tokenized economy, and that's the reason why they're bringing this ETF. Don't forget, guys, Israel is always leading in technology, and that's not by chance. They know all about this fourth industrial revolution. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And we get inflation numbers tomorrow, which we know is not going to be good. Like all the numbers we keep getting are not good. But we know the mainstream media is going to twist it because the economy is getting worse and worse. But don't forget, that's the plan. They want to destroy this legacy market so Trump can build this fourth industrial revolution. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. Because he knows. When it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
To debut on the New York Stock Exchange today, its ticker symbol is TOV, and after the Hebrew word tov, meaning good, the fund has already raised more than $100 million in seed capital. And joining us right now, Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO and National Director of ADL. We should point out that the ADL Foundation is one of the organizations supporting the fund. How did this come about? What is this?
Well, look, yes, we've talked on the show before about the rise of anti-Semitism, and we've seen it poison campuses, and we've seen it poison cultural spaces, and we're increasingly seeing the sort of BDS hooligans, the same ones who are seizing buildings at Barnard, trying to target corporations. Last year in 2024, we saw about 75 companies targeted by these BDS activists. So that can mean anti-Israel shareholder resolutions. That can mean staging actions at shareholder meetings, literally doing die-ins or things like that. That can actually mean actions inside the companies. I'm talking about big public equities like Amazon, Google, Chevron, HP, Intel, and more. And so we felt like at ADL, we've done a lot of stakeholder advocacy over the years, It's time to get into the shareholder advocacy
What's
business.
a die-in? I've never even heard of that.
Where these activists literally lie in front on the ground as if they were dead, right, to protest what they perceive as, quote unquote, Israel's policies.
So what companies would be incorporated into this ETF? How would they be chosen, and how would they be put in or taken out?
Sure. So look, this is giving you exposure to large cap public equities, and we're basically buying the S&P with a focus on companies who we think are, aligning with our values. So in that case, I'm talking about companies who are, doing the right thing on Israel, pushing back on BDS, and aligning with sort of tikkun olam type values. This isn't a typical negative screen ETF. There are a couple stocks.
So who's not in? If it's the S&P, who's off?
Sure. So we're not including tobacco stocks like Altria, Philip Morris. We're not including ConocoPhillips, which is...
But not because they're anti-Semitic.
No, just because in terms of Jewish values, we think, again, tobacco just doesn't align with where ADL is.
Okay.
But I think
Conoco because of Venezuela.
Venezuela and oil sands and such. But the worst...
What?
They're one of the worst kind of companies in terms of emissions.
You mean dirty.
Yeah.
But what about other fossil fuel companies?
No. We're not excluding fossil fuel companies. But I will note General Mills is one that we're excluding.
Okay.
Why? Because General Mills was pressured by BDS activists and pulled their Pillsbury division out of Israel altogether.
Okay.
They felt like it was better not to have to deal with, the hooligans masking themselves. Just get out of Israel.
Can I ask, you're doing this at a time in the country where there is a massive pushback on ESG, on DEI. You have almost every company in the country practically removing any kind of DEI program. You have folks like Robbie Starbuck out there who are going after companies for doing anything except trying to make profits. That is the sort of central tenet of the way this market has moved. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. It just is.
Yeah.
How do you think about that in this context?
Well, that's exactly why we're doing this. Not because we want to be part of sort of the DEI industrial complex, but because we believe the activists who come out of it and, again, try to hijack the shareholder process are doing a disservice not only to the companies themselves, but to our community. And there have been faith-based ETFs for many years. This is the first time the Jewish community is getting into that game to preserve our interests and to make sure we have a seat at the table. It's just not something we've done before.
So when you look at what Robbie Starbuck is doing, for example, in the context of what you're doing, do you say what he's doing is right or wrong?
Look, I'm not going to comment on what Robbie's doing, but I think about, another guest I've been on with Vivek.
Well, no, because what's interesting is he's pressuring companies on one side, right? Yeah. By the way, he has some views that aren't just about profits and other things, right? And you are now pressuring.
But DEI originally was pressuring companies in the first place. So NASDAQ couldn't have Tell me you're not excluding defense contractors.
We're not excluding defense contractors.
What about gun makers?
We're not excluding those companies. I mean, look,
I'm watching.
You should. But the fact, because defense companies have a role to play.
Duh. For Israel, maybe.
And for all of us.
Exactly.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying to you and what makes this complicated is if the defense companies decided that they were going to no longer support Israel, right, you would say that they're doing the wrong thing, I imagine.
Well, we would,
and they would say that they're doing it in the Robbie Starbuck version of for whatever the benefit of the shareholders. Meaning there is going to be times where people are going to do things for the quote unquote shareholders that may be out of step with what you would want as a religious ETF.
I wouldn't call it a religious ETF, but what I would simply say is that we want to make sure that shareholder interests are preserved and protected. Israel is one of the most dynamic economies on the planet. It's a member of the OECD. It's got the second largest high-tech sector in the world. It's a place that is a font of innovation. So whether it's defense companies or CPG firms or any kind of business, there's a clear business case to be made for being there. And I think we got to keep in mind, Andrew, it is, again, the BDS hooligans who are coming off these campuses, who are trying to hijack so many of our public spaces. And that's what we're trying to push back against.
But that's something I'm not sure I understand. How is this particular instrument going to push back on that?
Well, look, so for example, Amazon in 2023 had one of these crazy anti-BDS resolutions that was proposed, and it wasn't well tracked. Nobody was monitoring it. It got 34% share of the vote when it came up. Now, it failed, but 34% is a lot. So when ADL learned about this, we mobilized. We started educating the institutional investors. We started educating the advocacy groups. Okay. And it went down to 17%.
I'm going to make this super complicated for you.
Sure.
Super complicated. Sure. Okay, you ready?
It's always complicated.
No, this one's now I'm going to make it really complicated. So I don't know if you remember, about 2 or 3 years ago, Amazon had this video that they were selling.
Uh-huh.
You came on the air. We talked about it.
I was here talking about it.
You remember that video? And that video, or film, I should say, effectively
it was Kyrie's favorite movie of the year.
Right, and it suggested that the Holocaust didn't exist, if I
among other things.
Among other things. Okay, so given the seat that you sit in, at that time, you now will have a role in some way with the CTF. Would you say, okay, we are getting rid? We're taking Amazon off of our list?
I think it's a great question. Look, Amazon is a large, diversified corporation, right? So one movie being recommended by sort of a bigoted basketball player doesn't necessarily represent the broad span of their business.
Right, but you've also come on this program and you have said
there's
that Meta, you have gone after so many companies in America.
Doubt.
By the way, Elon Musk, you have gone after Elon Musk very publicly. Would you say that there have been effectively allegations that you have made at certain points along the lines where you have been, at minimum, frustrated with his views about what was going on either in Israel or Jews or things that you thought that he was being anti-Semitic about. Would you say, okay, we're taking Tesla out of the index?
So look, like,
do you see what I'm saying? This is why it's complicated.
I hear you. So we want to look at the actions of the businesses themselves, not the particular personality of a CEO or a founder per se. So, Elon's entitled to his opinion. That doesn't change the fact that whether it's Tesla or it's SpaceX, or it's X, it's, I guess, only Tesla's public. I mean, that would be a company.
Okay, you're wearing Adidas shoes right now.
I am wearing Adidas shoes.
Okay, you're wearing Adidas Sambas right now, and you recall back in the day where you boycotted, protested Adidas in the context of its deal with Kanye.
Correct.
Kanye is still walking around with T-shirts on X, by the way, with swastikas on them.
That's right.
What are you going to do about that, mister? I mean, that's why
that's a good example.
So difficult.
It's complicated. But again, as a stakeholder,
if you're a stakeholder, I would think you should be out there saying this is untenable.
Yeah,
and any business leader that's allowing the swastikas on the thing, unless you're saying you're now in the free speech category, but other people have obviously debated you on that for years.
We went to Adidas on the issue of Kanye as a stakeholder and advocated and pushed, and they did the right thing. That's why I'm wearing my Sambas today. But on the other hand, if they didn't, if they got it wrong,
you'd remove them from
we'd have to look hard at that.
It's an interesting conversation.
It's going to be exciting. I mean, I think, look, it's the first time it's happened. Like you said, we have $100 million already kind of raised from institutional investors, and I'm very optimistic.
Do you see making changes where you'd sell something and buy it back? Is it,
absolutely, it could be
leverage?
It could be. I mean, we're not dogmatic here. We're doing this to be pragmatic. And look, this is a passive ETF. I mean, again, we're buying the S&P, but we will be passionate in our advocacy, right? Because that's what we do at ADL.
There's a long list of data points here, so be patient. GDP, second look at fourth quarter, 2.3 our last look, and it remains at 2.3. To put it in context, 2.3 was actually the weakest since the first quarter of 24 when it was 1.6. If we look at personal consumption, well, it actually remained the same. Many were looking for it to deteriorate a bit. 4.2%, very solid reading, the best since the first quarter of 23. The pricing index is leapfrogging. It is jumping. Price index moves from 2.2 to 4.2. I mean, I have to look at that twice. That almost seems like I read it wrong across the wire, but it is 4.2. That would be the hottest. We're going back all the way to the third quarter of 22 when it was 4.5%. Now, if we look at the PCE on a core basis, now this is a quarter-over-quarter metric, it jumped 0.2 from 2.5 to 2.7. That would be the warmest since 2.8 in the second quarter of last year. So yields, of course, are going to most likely pay attention to that. Some will say it's older data, maybe considered the biggies. Initial jobless claims, 242,000. That's about 20,000 more than we were expecting, and that is up 22,000 from a slightly revised 220. Now, 242,000 is still rather well behaved. It equals the exact number from the first week of 24. To find a higher number, you're going back to the first week in October.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China. But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.